Welcome back to Candid Conversations. Candice, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Chris?
I'm pretty good. This is our final guest episode of season 1 of Candid Conversations. Pretty excited about that.
I can't believe it. It flew by.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a year for sure.
So who do we have with us?
So today we're here with Dr. Kevin Jackson. As Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education here at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, Dr. Jackson provides campus-wide leadership in the area of undergraduate education, including setting strategic directions for the undergraduate experience at Illinois, supporting innovation in classroom and online instruction, and encouraging interdisciplinary initiatives in curriculum and pedagogy. Collaborating with colleges, schools, and other stakeholders, he works to ensure that the undergraduate experience at Illinois continues to be one of the best in the nation. Kevin holds a BBA and PhD in accounting from the University of Texas at Austin. He has been at the University of Illinois since 2004. Most recently, he was professor of accountancy and associate dean of undergraduate affairs at the Gies College of Business. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Great to be here.
Tell us about your journey to getting to be in the position that you're in and what you've learned about leadership along the way.
You know, when I think about kind of starting present and working backwards a little bit, I can't believe that I'm at where I'm at. The journey has been, someone has asked me about this in another setting, and I said, you know the biblical story of Joseph, where a lot of things had to come together to kind of serve a purpose. That kind of feels like my journey. I don't have anything extraordinary happening. I was an okay high school student, more of an athlete, played basketball in high school, went to University of Texas at Austin, as you mentioned, studied accounting. But that was really because my mom had a friend whose second husband took accounting. I was kind of first gen, didn't really know what I was doing. Probably went into accounting for the wrong reasons, frankly. Back in the 80s, as a person of color and in a different type of field, I was self-conscious of people questioning my intellect. I saw people having difficult time in accounting and wanted to kind of demonstrate that I had the stuff intellectually, which I don't recommend that being part of your decision set. And practiced as a CPA for several years, 7 years before I went back to school to get a PhD. Didn't know anybody who had a PhD. Just kind of felt that this was the thing to do. My brother, he is a minister, and sometimes I talk to him about, okay, so is this a calling or is this a career? And sometimes I feel that same way, that this was what brought me to where I'm at, is kind of trying to take the next right step. And generally it was a lot of people telling me that this would be the step for you, and me choosing to listen. I don't know that I'd taken a leadership role that someone didn't approach me and say, you should really do this thing. So I guess my journey has been one of trusting that people see things in me that I might be a little slower to see in myself. And it's taught me to listen, and seek what it is that I value. I'm a fairly missional kind of guy. I believe in higher education and what we do. I believe that what we are attempting to accomplish is noble work. And I think that sustains me over, challenging times along that journey.
So you mentioned you believe in the work that we do in higher ed. What took you from being a faculty member at Gies College of Business to moving into administration right now?
Well, I wasn't sure if this is something that I should do. It's a big step to kind of turn in your faculty card. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my wife, Sylvia, shout out. I talked to my wife about it, and she questioned me. I I felt comfortable with what I was doing. The life of a faculty member is great. And she recognized kind of my missional approach to the way I do things and thought, hey, you're teaching a lot of students and making a difference in those students' lives. You sure you want to move in that direction? But there are some things about being in an administrative role that perhaps aligns better with some of the things that I bring to the table that are natural for me. I'm not going to drag faculty because, like I said, it's the greatest job. But that job, really, you are recognized based on what people think of you. Mm-hmm. So you have value as a faculty member to the extent people believe you have value. And so there's a lot depending upon what other people think about you. And I was never someone that was good at kind of managing reputation or self-promoting or doing those types of things that aren't the only things that are rewarded in as a faculty member, but it's one of those things. To the extent that you can do those things well, it works for you as far as your career path. I tend to be missional and am a little bit uneasy and unsettled by making much of what I do and things that I accomplish. And I'm not saying that as a kind of a modesty. That's kind of a thing I need to work on. But this role allows me to pursue those things that I find are missionally aligned with where my heart is, where my convictions are. And I don't feel the tension of trying to layer on top of that something that I'm just not very good at.
So let me dig into that just a little bit, because you were first the associate dean for undergraduate education at the Gies College of Business. So you were like at a college level in that culture of Gies.
Yeah.
And then you made the leap to being a head of undergraduate education for the entire campus. What made you want to kind of expand that for yourself?
Here again, I don't know that I wanted to do that. I mean, that wasn't the incentive. That wasn't the motivation. I saw an opportunity to make a difference. Someone pointed out to me, my predecessor, reached out to me and said, Kevin, you need to do this. And that made me think about whether or not it is something that, again, suits me. There's a part of me that's kind of has that Nanny McPhee kind of, hey, as long as you need me, I'll be here. But when you don't need me, I can move on. I felt like the college, the undergraduate experience and space in the college was in a good place. I was ready to move on. And this was pointed out to me as another way in which I could really serve and make a difference in the lives of young people. And it's different, but I think it suits me.
Yeah. As a faculty member going into administration, management, and leadership, I'm sure there have been moments that have hit you out of left field in some ways. Can you share one of those pivotal moments in your career that really significantly influenced how you approach leadership now?
When I was a faculty member, I was an accounting professor. I mentioned this kind of reputation management thing that I'm not particularly good at or like very much. And so I was engaged in a lot of things, a lot of ways in which I was serving outside of my role as a faculty member. I think that's common for people who are African American or people of color who are invited to do things that are a little bit extra. And I had a moment where some of the leaders had expressed to me kind of an admiration. Hey, you're the most compassionate guy on our faculty. We all agree with that, but you need to be more selfish. And that hit me a certain way in that, again, if I think about what I do as being more missional, that really ran contrary to that which I find most important in the work that I do. I think what I've done is taking that as a signal that I need to embrace who I am, whether that would be as a faculty member, but I need to embrace who I am as part of my work. I have never been someone whose identity was tied with their work. I kind of think of my work as the things that I do, and it's not who I am. And so I really try to see the person or people in front of me as part of that mission work. So if I think about how I lead by just caring about the people that are doing the stuff. They're the experts at the stuff. They clearly know more about the stuff. And I want them to flourish. And I know that if they flourish, then the mission, what we're trying to accomplish, has a better chance of success. It's not about me. And imperfectly, that's how I've tried to lead, but that's how I tried to live, that it's not about me. And again, I say imperfectly because I stumble and mess up. My wife could tell you could list a handful of those things where I do that.
So let's talk a little bit more. You alluded to that you have a life outside of your career.
Yeah.
How do you juggle the professional responsibilities along with your personal well-being? How are you juggling those things?
I really think it's about perspective. I remember having a conversation with my daughter, Hannah, shout out Hannah, when she was really young. And she came home from school and, somebody was, saying some things that upset her. And I said, Hannah, here's this kid who's kind of giving you a hard time. Why do you care what he thinks? Your mother and I, we love you. We care about you. We think you're special. And so wouldn't you care more about those who care about you, who know you the best, over this kid who was at school, who doesn't know you from Adam, who's just kind of saying things? And I think that that's how I've tried to, again, kind of approach life. I care about the opinions. Well, I'll say it this way. I do care what people think about me. I do care what people think about me. But I value the opinions of those who know me best, because they know me best. And that's where my heart is. And so I have a perspective that considers what actions I take, what decisions I make, kind of through a lens of, is this right? And what would those who care about me think about this decision I'm making? Mm-hmm. More so than, again, what would be the most politically expedient or that type of thing. But I also know when it's time to go home. And when I joke about when I was an undergraduate student, and the way I defined discipline was your ability to kind of sit behind a computer or at a desk, because we didn't really have a lot of computers, and just crank and just work. And that was considered discipline. And I think at some point in our careers, and you might feel this same way, some point in your careers, discipline is redefined as being able to walk away from that computer and kind of move away and take care of the things that really need to be taken care of, the things that you value most.
Yeah, having really good boundaries is a form of discipline.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's relationally, it's the highest form of discipline. And if I'm trying to influence, my children, if I'm trying to nurture my marriage, if I'm trying to lead in other areas of life, in my church or in other places, I need to make those decisions. I need to develop that discipline. Again, do this imperfectly, but that's how I try to juggle, is to kind of keep perspective and exercise and recognize what discipline really means to me.
So what habits or routines do you have that help you stay grounded and focused as a leader?
Well, if I think about, I'm thinking about leading as leading people.
Yeah.
I make a distinction between kind of, you manage processes, but you lead people. And I really, if I want to stay grounded, I have to have conversations that are relational with those who report to me, because it allows me to really recognize what I'm asking of people. And it allows me to, while what we're trying to accomplish is important, that there are real things happening in the lives of the people around me. And I need to do right by them. I'll say this is the thing that I've had to get used to the most as a leader. And that is, the weight of what I say is heavier than I ever intend. When I tell somebody something that I might just kind of throw out there, like, you really need to blah, blah, blah. They're like, whoa, they take notes, right?
I got a tattoo.
That's right. It's so different. And so it requires me to be more disciplined with my tongue, more thoughtful about the words that I use and say, and just recognizing again that the people around me are people who are going to go home, and they're going to carry with them whatever happened at work. And so if I want to lead in a way that recognizes the value that they're adding to the organization, but also just signals, teaches what leadership should mean to them, because, the people that I lead, they're leaders. And so I want to help build the right type of leader that suits them, and helps them recognize that everybody within our organization has a life outside of that organization, and they're going to bring junk to work, just like I bring junk to work, and they're going to need grace, just like I need grace.
I think of that in relationship to the students too, that your decisions and your role impact as well. Like you went from Gies, you were at 3,000, 3,500 students that you were sort of directly impacting with your decisions. Now it's in the 30,000s. Like that's like
put it that way.
it's a huge responsibility, and I really like the way you frame that. Yeah. That like every word that comes out of your mouth could have impact on every single one of those students.
And I like that you said that your habits are like listening and really understanding the people. But I feel like I want to know more about you. Are there other things that you do? You've mentioned your family. You've mentioned the church. Are there other things that you do to help you stay grounded and come back and get back into a work mindset?
Yeah, I mean, relationships really influence us. And so I do attend church regularly. And within that church setting, I have a group of men. There's probably 6. I'm saying 6, but maybe 7, but of men that we meet twice a month, and we have candid conversations, and we talk about the ways in which life is treating us well, and in ways in which life isn't treating us as well, and that idea of what do you do to kind of self-help or self-well-being, being able to have people that you trust with your vulnerable moments, the ways in which you failed, and the ways in which you may have seen victories, and to have opportunities to encourage others in those moments. We can get pretty raw, but you always feel better when you walk away. And I consider that my personal approach to therapy, and I just admire the men in the room and value their counsel.
So as the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, apologies.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face? And then how have you overcome them, or how have you faced those challenges?
I think that the biggest challenges, aren't unique to the space. I think it's the challenges of being a leader are, they kind of persist across a lot of different contexts. Just to kind of say something that maybe others don't say, I do think, because I value the people around me, having the tough conversation with people is hard. To be able to say the things that are going to be received, and cause grief. But again, you approach that from the perspective of, I'm trying to help here. I just want you to know. And so laying that relational groundwork gives you more permission to say the hard things. But I think perhaps the harder thing is not being able to say something. There have just been a lot of moments where I could sense that there were people who were thinking something about me because I can't tell them the whole story. And whether that's another employee who's kind of messing around, and you're like, you want to say, this is how I'm handling it because it's observable, but you can't. You aren't really, it's not really appropriate for you to do that. Or there's anxiety about an issue that you feel like is kind of being resolved, but not yet ready to be made public, and you just can't say anything yet. That's hard for me, is when I know things that others don't know, and yet I can't say the thing, at least not yet. Because I really pride myself on being a transparent person. And
how do you resolve that? Because I have that same struggle, and I tend to resolve on the side of being more transparent, but that can bite you sometimes.
Yeah.
You get out ahead of your skis on things. So how do you tend to resolve those?
It depends on the situation. Like, so if it's a personnel issue, I just know that I'm just going to have a reputational hit, but I feel okay about that because it's the right thing. It's the right thing. And so it does make it easier when as a value, you're not overemphasizing what other people think about you. And the other part of that is, I guess I've heard Chancellor Jones say this, but I didn't get it from him. But I've heard him say this, that he's present in his space. Like, what's in front of me is the thing that is kind of what I have my eyes on, and so I'm never looking at the next job, and I don't think it's particularly a bad thing if you are. I think ambition is helpful and can be motivating, but I don't look at the next job. It allows me to make what I believe is the right decision today. So in those moments of, of tension, where for me not saying this could make me look bad at some point down the line, I feel more confident that if I'm feeling confident that's the right decision, then I'm okay with that. But I think the important thing is that none of these are kind of one-shot games. None of this happens in a vacuum. And so I say this from the perspective of laying a groundwork of a relationship in that workspace. I've just observed in my own life, in my own professional life, that you get a lot of grace if people really believe that you care about them. If you've laid that relational foundation, then you do get a lot of grace. You do keep credibility. And I might even say afterwards, hey, look, I'm just going to tell you, I knew this ahead of time, but I just couldn't say anything. I hope that doesn't bother you. And if there were something that I could have done, I would have. Okay. And it's not a function of whether I trust you or not trust you. It's a function of the situation.
Let's switch gears a little bit and kind of look through your lens as Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. And what do you see as the biggest challenges facing students today? Things have changed a lot for them over the last 5-10 years. So what do you see as those big challenges?
I think their lives are much more complicated than my life was. I think about, I've used this term before, I think we're beyond the era of news and we're in the era of targeted messaging. And the messages that our young people are getting are often not healthy messages. I think our young men are being inundated with messages around toxic masculinity, which in my viewpoint, and I'm not a researcher in this area, I'm an accountant, right? But from my viewpoint, I think really makes it hard for them to develop the skill of relationship building and relationship keeping with their peers and with those of the opposite gender. So I do think relationships are a struggle. How relationships are defined and the skill in which you have at your disposal to develop those relationships. And some of that I think is, it plays out in a lot of different ways. But I'm about, more than the student achieving academically. I always want students to achieve academically. I really want them to flourish. I want them to be healthy and happy as adults and in a world that can be challenging to navigate and will throw a lot of things at them. If what students walk away from our campus with is better skills at relationship building, stronger empathy for people who are different than they are, then we've just given them a gift that we'll keep giving. Time and again, they'll have better work relationships, they'll have better familial relationships, they'll have better friendships, and, the naive person in me, we'll have a better culture and better world. And I say that kind of pie in the sky, but it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think if wanting a better world and better culture makes us naive, then call me naive, because we have to keep striving for that, for sure.
Yeah, and we have to know that we can influence that. We can influence that, and so.
So tell me about what trends you see happening with undergraduate education.
We're in a setting of uncertainty and change that is just incredible.
Yeah, sitting here in the spring of 2025, there's a lot up in the air right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say that things that I think that we'll have to resolve are things about the role of technology. In my opinion, we're going to have to struggle with what we're delivering as a higher ed institution, and whether that's the same as what we've delivered historically. I was telling people about making confession that earlier in the year, my family finally got YouTube TV. Right. We were at Dish Network, and we finally moved to YouTube TV.
Welcome to the club.
I know. But my wife and I didn't know how to navigate through it. And but my older daughter, Bethany, shout out Bethany, my older daughter was like, give me the remote. She's showing us how to do the stuff. And then she's like, I never did understand that Dish Network thing with what's a channel, and all of these types of things. She had a different paradigm. And it became clear that we have different paradigms. And where I think in higher education, what we need to struggle with is whether or not our paradigm, our historical paradigm, aligns well with the paradigm of the students who are coming onto our campuses. And then we need to figure out, and I can tell you, there is a difference. They don't align. And so we need to struggle and figure out how to grow that alignment, and not try to get students to become who we were, but to become more of who they are and meet them where they are. And that's going to be hard, because institutions are about tradition and history. And so what we need to do is catalyze a movement.
Not to frame it as a battle, but who do you think wins that tug of war? Do you think kind of institutionalized higher ed or this new paradigm of student? Who's going to win that?
I don't think it's going to be close. The student's is going to win, and I don't think it's close. In part because there are others who are going to provide what they need, who are going to meet that paradigm challenge if we don't.
So you described yourself, I'll use the term maybe reluctant leader, that you sort of, somebody asked you to lead and you stepped into that, you willingly stepped into that, but you weren't ambitious towards that. There are a lot of people though that are thinking about being leaders in higher ed and maybe aspiring to be leaders in higher ed. So do you have any advice for those people, maybe especially faculty who are thinking about taking that leap into leadership? What advice would you give them?
I would say it's important to be able to articulate what it is you want to accomplish. Not what it is you want to do, but what it is you want to accomplish. And don't move until you have that in mind. Leading in higher ed, there are a lot of, because, leadership takes many forms, and having a sense about where your convictions are with respect to what you want to accomplish will guide you in the directions you might want to go as to how you want to influence, how you want to lead in an institution of higher education. There's room for people to come into higher education with different motivations. But it's hard. And if there's not a sense of mission, it's easy to get discouraged, and it's easy to take shortcuts and to do things in ways that become more self-serving. It's everybody's right to do that, but I'm not going to encourage that. I'm going to encourage those who want to look at higher education as a mission field where noble work is done, where, and that can be in the teaching space, that could be in the research space, but noble work is done with a goal of making the world a better place, having an influence on society that sustains and that makes a difference in the lives of individuals. Yeah.
So this is a question we ask on each podcast so far for our guests, and it's to, in the spirit of Candid Conversations, tell us and the audience and our listeners and viewers, what is something that most people don't know about you?
Well, when people have those little games, like what's the thing? Mm-hmm. I was born in Japan. That's something that people don't know about me. My father was in the Air Force, and I left when I was 5, so I don't know, so I don't know a lot of konnichiwa, I don't know a lot of Japanese, but something that people don't know about, something new that people don't know about me, I bird. I am into birding.
Wow.
When did that develop?
Earlier this year.
Okay.
Earlier this year. So I got the binoculars.
You have an app and you look in, or no?
Well, we got the books because we're old school. But but we do have, there is apps for, the bird songs.
What's your most unique find?
Unique is tough to describe. The most exciting was the first time we saw a pileated woodpecker.
What does that look like?
It's the largest woodpecker, and it is beautiful with a big red.
That's the one Woody
comb.
Woodpecker.
It's the Woody Woodpecker.
Oh, okay. When you think woodpecker. Okay.
Yes, and it turns out that the woodpecker laughs. It makes a laughing sound. I don't know if it's really laughing.
Yeah.
And it dawned on my wife and I as we were in this, on a hike, and we heard the sound. I was like, now I get Woody Woodpecker, because I can never, why would they have a woodpecker who laughs and
wow, that's going to notice. This
exactly.
But
I'm not going to try to do my impression of Woody. Yeah.
That's pretty good, Ben. Yeah. So, and it's turned out to be, we kind of picked it up in that it made sense. My wife and I both like to hike, but she's kind of, what she gets out of hiking is that connection with nature. And I'm kind of we're making good time. We got to get moving, And so birding helps me slow it down and actually enjoy nature in ways that I just would have missed.
I would imagine it makes you recognize the details of things a lot more than you would if you're just trucking through the woods. Yeah.
Yeah. It is, there's another world that's been there all the time, that I'm just now discovering, and it's been a lot of fun.
There's a lot of good lessons in that for our interactions with humans as well, right?
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So finally, to wrap us up today, what do you hope that our listeners and viewers take away from this conversation?
Well, I hope that they challenge themselves, as they consider, as opportunities to lead come their way, if they're reluctant about it or hesitant, that they challenge themselves in that way. And if they're ambitious about leadership, that they consider, so what are my motivations? And is this, the type of leadership that is considering what it is there is to accomplish, and So I really hope that it's an encouragement to people who are in some ways intrigued by leading or not intrigued by leading, and understanding that leaders come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I know some of the people that you've spoken with in conversations before, and there's just a lot of different ways that you can lead, and you can bring a lot of different things to that leadership table.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for bringing your particular compassionate, unique version of leadership to share with our viewers and listeners. So really appreciate the time today, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I appreciate being here, guys. Keep up the good work.